We begin our journey across a vast and familiar landscape. It is the United States of America. Look closely. You can see it everywhere. On the windows of bustling high street shops, on laminated signs tied to lampposts, flapping in the winter wind. The words are always bright, always optimistic. Now, hiring. Join our team. Help wanted. It is a chorus of opportunity, a promise whispered from every corner of the nation. These signs suggest a world brimming with work, a land where anyone who wants a job can find one. They are beacons of hope in a complex world, suggesting stability is just an application away. But if you listen, underneath that chorus of opportunity, there is a different sound. A quieter, more persistent hum. It is the sound of empty wallets and mounting bills. It is the silence in a home where a paycheck used to arrive, but no longer does. This is the paradox at the heart of the American dream today. The signs offer a promise, but reality often delivers something else entirely. We see the invitation, but we feel the exclusion. It is a grand illusion, a carefully constructed stage where the appearance of prosperity masks a deeper, more unsettling truth about the nature of work itself. This disconnect is not an accident. It is a feature of a system that has grown more complex, more calculated. We are told to celebrate the number of jobs created, but we are not encouraged to ask about the quality of those jobs. We are not meant to question their duration. The landscape of now hiring signs is like a beautiful, sprawling desert mirage. From a distance it shimmers with the promise of life-giving water. But as you get closer, you find only sand. The hope it offered was never truly there, at least not in the way we were led to believe. It was a temporary vision, designed to fade. And so, we stand at a crossroads. On one path, the bright, well-lit road of official statistics and cheerful corporate messaging. On the other, a darker, less traveled path where millions of people walk. A path of temporary contracts, uncertain futures, and the constant nagging fear of the next layoff. This is the hidden truth of the American job market. It is a story not of permanent ascent, but of a relentless rotating cycle of hope and disappointment. A machine that hires with enthusiasm, only to discard with cold, calculated efficiency. Tonight, on this Christmas Day of 2025, we will explore that machine. Imagine the turning of the seasons. Autumn arrives, and with it, a surge of activity. The world prepares for the holidays. Online orders spike. Shops need more hands to stack shelves and serve customers. This is the seasonal tide, a wave of hiring that sweeps across the country. It brings with it a powerful and intoxicating feeling hope. For someone who has been searching for work, a seasonal job is more than just a temporary post. It is a chance, a foot in the door. A promise that if they work hard enough they might just stay on when the tide goes out. This hope is a powerful motivator. It encourages people to accept lower wages and less certain terms than they might otherwise. They see the 3-month contract, not as an endpoint, but as an audition. They arrive early. They stay late. They do more than is asked of them, fueled by the belief that their effort will be seen and rewarded. They are told, "We are a family here," and there could be permanent opportunities for the right people. These words are the currency of the seasonal economy, traded for dedication and overperformance. The promise is always just over the horizon, but this system is designed for a specific purpose, and it is rarely long-term stability for the worker. The seasonal tide is meant to recede. Companies need the extra labor for a specific, predictable peak in demand. Once that peak passes, the need vanishes. The extra hands are no longer necessary for the business to function. The family suddenly becomes smaller. The promise of permanence was never a guarantee. It was a possibility, a tool to ensure maximum productivity during a critical period. The design is brutally efficient. Harness the power of hope for short-term gain. And so, when January arrives, the emails and phone calls begin. The conversations are brief, scripted, and impersonal. Your seasonal assignment has concluded. We thank you for your hard work. The wave that brought so much hope crashes and pulls back, leaving behind a shoreline of uncertainty. The workers who poured their energy into the job are now back where they started. Their bank accounts only slightly better off, but their faith in the system a little more broken. The tide will come in again next year, and a new group of hopefuls will be there to greet it. Let us look behind the curtain. Let us examine the architect's blueprint for this system. It is not drawn with malice, but with the cold, hard pencil of financial logic. A full-time, permanent employee is a significant investment for a company. There is the salary, of course, but there are also the additional costs: national insurance contributions, pension plans, paid holidays, and sick leave. These benefits, which form the bedrock of stable employment, can add another 20 to 30% on top of a worker's base salary. This is a long-term commitment, one that many companies are increasingly reluctant to make. The seasonal or temporary worker, by contrast, represents a much simpler calculation. They're often hired through agencies or on zero-hour contracts, which shifts the financial burden. The company pays for the hours worked, and little else. There are no long-term benefit obligations, no severance pay when the contract ends. The cost is predictable and contained. When demand is high, you turn the tap on. When it subsides, you turn it off. The worker is not an asset to be invested in, but a resource to be consumed. A variable cost in a complex equation of profit and loss. Hope, in this blueprint, is the most cost-effective tool of all. It costs nothing to dangle the possibility of a permanent role, yet it yields incredible returns. It transforms a temporary worker into a highly motivated, deeply committed employee, willing to work with the intensity of someone fighting for their future. This is the genius of the design. It secures the loyalty and dedication of a permanent employee, but at the price of a temporary one. The company gets the best of both worlds, while the worker shoulders all of the risk, hoping their gamble pays off. This financial logic has reshaped the American workforce. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, millions of workers are laid off or discharged every single month, even in a strong economy. In 2023 alone, there were over 20 million layoffs. Many of these are part of this rotating system. Companies are not just cutting costs, they are engineering a flexible, disposable workforce. They are insulating themselves from the risks of economic downturns by building a system where the first and easiest shock absorber is the temporary worker, who can be let go without consequence. The blueprint is clear: profit and flexibility first, people second. The mechanics of this system are not just financial, they are also deeply psychological. A quiet but powerful whisper campaign is constantly at play within the workplace. It begins with the language used during hiring. Words like opportunity, growth, and team are used to create a sense of belonging and shared purpose from day one. New hires are brought into a culture that celebrates effort and dedication. They are told that individual performance is the key to advancement. This narrative is compelling because it speaks to our deepest desires: to be valued, to succeed, and to build a secure future. This atmosphere of positive reinforcement is then paired with a subtle, underlying uncertainty. No one ever says directly, "Only 5% of you will stay." Instead, managers might say, "We are always looking for top talent," or "Impress us, and good things will happen." This ambiguity creates a competitive environment. Workers are not just doing their jobs. They are constantly auditioning. They watch their colleagues, wondering who is performing better, who is more likely to be chosen. This constant low-level stress pushes everyone to overperform, to volunteer for extra tasks, and to never say no. The promise of a permanent job acts as a powerful psychological anchor. It keeps people tethered to a situation they might otherwise leave. They endure long hours, difficult conditions, or low pay because they believe it is a temporary sacrifice for a long-term reward. This is a classic conditioning technique. Behavior is shaped by the promise of a future prize. The company, in effect, outsources its motivation to the employee's own hopes. It does not need to use sticks when the carrot of permanence, however distant, is so effective at guiding behavior. Ultimately, this system turns the worker's own ambition against them. It channels their drive and their dreams into a short-term productivity boost for the company. When the seasonal contract ends, the psychological impact can be severe. It is not just the loss of a job, it is the feeling of being misled. The family that welcomed them in now shows them the door. The effort they poured in feels wasted. This experience erodes trust, not just in one company, but in the system as a whole. It teaches a harsh lesson. In the modern economy, loyalty is often a one-way street. Now, let us zoom out for a moment. Let us observe this phenomenon not as a series of individual stories but as a large-scale atmospheric system. Think of it as a weather pattern, an engineered storm. It is a cycle of high-pressure zones of hiring, followed by low-pressure zones of layoffs. This is not the chaotic, unpredictable weather of a natural economy. It is a controlled climate, designed and maintained by the largest players in the market. The cycle is predictable, it is profitable, and honestly, it has become the new normal for millions of people across the country. The storm begins to gather in the autumn. A massive influx of hiring creates a warm front of economic activity. News reports celebrate the creation of hundreds of thousands of jobs. Consumer confidence rises. It feels like a boom, but it is a temporary updraft. This hiring is concentrated in specific sectors: retail, logistics, hospitality, all preparing for the holiday rush. The system is intentionally pulling in a massive amount of labor, knowing full well that it will only be needed for a few months. It is the deep breath before the plunge, a manufactured season of plenty. Then as the calendar turns to the new year, the cold front arrives. The holiday season ends, demand plummets, and the layoffs begin. This is not a sign of economic failure, it is the planned exhalation. The system is releasing the excess labor it no longer needs. For the companies, this is simply a return to baseline, a necessary adjustment. But on the ground, it is a storm of pink slips and terminated contracts. Millions of people are released back into the job market simultaneously, creating a glut of applicants and making it harder for everyone to find their next position. This engineered cycle of gain and loss benefits the architects of the system in multiple ways. It keeps labor costs down. It creates a permanent pool of experienced available workers who can be called upon whenever the next peak arrives. And most importantly, it normalizes instability. The constant churn becomes an expected feature of the job market, rather than a bug to be fixed. It is a storm that we are told is natural, a part of the economic seasons. But if you look closely at the instruments, you can see the hands guiding the weather. How is it that a system causing so much disruption can seem so stable from the outside? The answer lies in the fog of data. The way we measure and report on the economy often obscures the very instability we are trying to understand. When a government report announces that the economy added 200,000 jobs in a month, we are shown a single positive number. It is a net figure. It represents the total number of jobs created minus the total number of jobs lost. But this simple number hides a much more turbulent reality. Beneath that single number is a storm of activity. In a typical month in the US, there might be 6 million new hires, but also 5.8 million layoffs, quits, and other separations. The headline figure of plus 200,000 completely masks the nearly 12 million people whose lives were in transition that month. It is like describing a hurricane by only mentioning that the eye of the storm moved 10 miles to the east. It misses the story of the wind and the rain. It sanitizes the chaos and presents a picture of calm, steady progress that few people actually experience. Companies have also become masters at reframing their actions. A layoff is no longer just a layoff. It is a restructuring, a realignment, or an effort to create synergies. This corporate language is designed to soften the blow and project an image of strategic, forward-thinking management. It turns a human event, the loss of a livelihood, into an abstract business decision. When a company announces it is cutting 5,000 jobs while simultaneously hiring for 2,000 new roles in a different department, the narrative can be spun as one of innovation and growth, even as thousands of families face uncertainty. This combination of misleading net figures and careful corporate messaging creates a thick fog. It makes it difficult to see the true scale of the problem. The urgency is lost. The rotating door of layoffs and temporary hires becomes invisible in the official record. We celebrate the creation of jobs without questioning their quality or their permanence. We are navigating by instruments that are designed to show us a calm sea, even when millions are being tossed about by the waves. The data does not lie, but it tells a very selective truth. The logic of the rotating layoff machine is contagious. What began as a strategy for managing seasonal peaks has now started to infect the world of permanent full-time employment. The mindset of flexible labor is spreading. Companies are beginning to see all of their employees, not just the temporary ones, through the same lens of cost and efficiency. The idea of a job for life, once the bedrock of the middle class, now seems like a relic from a bygone era. The storm is no longer just on the horizon. It has moved inland. We see this in the rise of what are called rolling layoffs. In the past, a company might announce a single large-scale layoff in response to a crisis. Today, it is more common to see a steady drumbeat of smaller cuts, month after month. A few hundred here, 1,000 there. This approach avoids the negative headlines of a massive cut, but it creates a pervasive culture of fear. Permanent employees now feel the same uncertainty that temporary workers have always known. They wonder if their team will be next, if their role will be restructured out of existence. This new instability is also visible in the changing nature of professional work. Entire departments are now being outsourced to contractors and consulting firms. Roles that were once considered core to a company's success, in marketing, human resources, even engineering, are now being filled by non-employees. This allows a company to access specialized skills without the long-term commitment of hiring. The permanent workforce shrinks, replaced by a periphery of freelancers and gig workers who have none of the security or benefits of a traditional job. The result is a blurring of the lines between temporary and permanent. Everyone is, to some degree, a temporary worker now. They are expected to be agile, to constantly reskill, and to always be prepared for the next change. The psychological burden is immense. It forces people to live in a state of constant alert, never fully able to relax, never fully secure in their position. The contagion has spread from the warehouse floor to the corporate office. The rotating door is spinning faster, and it is pulling more and more people into its cycle. While large corporations engineer this rotating system, it is the small businesses that often feel the most severe consequences. Small businesses are the heartbeat of the American economy. They account for nearly half of all employment in the country. They are not vast, faceless entities. They are the local cafe, the family-owned garage, the neighborhood bookshop. Their relationship with their employees is often personal. A layoff is not a strategic realignment. It is letting go of a neighbor, a friend. They are deeply connected to the communities they serve. These businesses cannot compete with the giants on the same terms. They do not have the vast cash reserves to absorb economic shocks. They cannot afford armies of temporary workers or expensive consulting firms. When a large corporation lays off thousands of people in a town, the local small businesses feel the impact immediately. People have less money to spend on coffee, on car repairs, on books. The storm that the big players create often ends up flooding the homes of the smallest. They are caught in the downstream effects of a system they did not create. Furthermore, small businesses are under immense pressure to adopt the same ruthless efficiency as their larger competitors. They are told they must be lean and agile to survive. This often means they are forced to make difficult choices. They may have to cut hours, freeze wages, or let go of a valued employee just to keep the doors open. They are caught in a vicious cycle. The instability created by large corporations forces them to adopt practices that create even more instability for their own workers. It is a race to the bottom that they cannot win. When a small business fails, the loss is more than just economic. It is a loss for the community. A local landmark disappears, a place where people gathered is gone, and the jobs it provided are lost for good. Unlike a large corporation that can simply close one location and open another, when a small business closes, it rarely comes back. The struggles of these businesses are a clear signal that the economic turbulence is deep and widespread. They are the canaries in the coal mine, and their silence is a warning we cannot afford to ignore. And so, we are left with a final, unsettling thought. The greatest danger is not the storm itself. It is not the layoffs or the instability. The greatest danger is how quietly we have all come to accept it. Listen, can you hear it? It is the sound of silence, the absence of outrage, the quiet resignation of millions of people who have been taught to see this insecurity as normal, as just the way things are. It is a silent tremor, running through the foundations of our society, a force we feel, but rarely name. This normalization is a strategic masterpiece. It has happened gradually, over decades. The language has changed. A job is now a gig. A career is now a portfolio of short-term projects. We are encouraged to see ourselves not as employees but as entrepreneurs of our own lives, constantly marketing ourselves for the next opportunity. This reframing shifts the responsibility for stability from the employer to the individual. If you are struggling, it is not because the system is unstable. It is because you are not being agile or resilient enough. This quiet acceptance is reinforced everywhere we look. In business news that celebrates corporate flexibility. In self-help books that teach us to embrace change. In the political discourse that focuses on headline job numbers while ignoring the quality of those jobs. We are slowly being conditioned to expect less. To be grateful for a temporary contract, to see a lack of benefits as standard. The unthinkable, a world without job security, has not only become thinkable, but has become the lived reality for a growing portion of the population. The risk is spreading silently like a crack in a dam. It begins with the most vulnerable, the seasonal worker,